You're watching Force 13's live streaming service.
Good evening, everyone. How's it going? We're dealing with quite the situation today. Typhoon Jebi bearing down on Japan right now. It's going to be hitting there within the next 2 days. Norman making a comeback. I'm not sure if it's still a Category 4, but it somehow managed to re-strengthen to it earlier today. It still is right now. And then we're also dealing with Florence in the Atlantic. Pretty weak right now, entering drier air. It should stay around the same intensity for the next couple of days. Then we have PTC 7 just designated right now. That should be a potential threat for Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. This tropical storm watch is already there. You also have Tropical Storm Olivia in the Eastern Pacific, still heavily sheared right now, expected to intensify over the coming days. And we have Miriam, which just dissipated in the Central Pacific. It lost all its convection and has become post-tropical. We're also joined with quite the plethora of other people here right now, if you guys want to introduce yourselves.
Well, first of all, I'd like to introduce myself to my own stream, Strat. I had to bring Strat on there at the very beginning because at the last I noticed that there was a difficulty, but we managed to fix that. So I am here now as well. I would have been introducing the show if not for that terrible glitch. But thank you very much, Strat, for doing your bit there. Well, we've got everything that's going on right now, and yes, let's talk to everyone. We do have a lot of people here. Let's start with David. Good evening.
Good evening to everybody, and also we're going out on our Facebook page. So I'm operating the Facebook stream, and good to be here covering the tropical scene.
We've also got Cesar. It's the first time we've heard from him for a while because of his difficulties over there with the internet, I gather.
Exactly, but of course I'm really happy to be back again with you guys, and well, hope my signal can resist this time of streaming.
Hope you manage. We've also got Dragon Rider 75, your username at least. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Dimitri, and
I thought it was, but I didn't want to get you confused with someone else and sound really stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, my name is Dimitri out there, and I'm covering this for all of y'all here. It's good to be back.
It sure is. Isaac's also here, joining us from Texas, one of the closest people to the potential storm later on.
Hi from Texas. Quite a hot day over here. Monitoring 07.
But not quite as close as Nelson, who is right in the middle of that cone at the minute. Good evening.
Good evening, Nathan. And yes, it's like staring down the barrel of a gun right now here in New Orleans.
And Nelson is under that tropical storm watch, so how are you feeling about that? It's first time since last year, I'm guessing.
I think we might have had one for Alberto that lasted
yes.
for one update cycle, but it's certainly never something to take lightly, even if it is a watch at this point. I do have emergency supplies ready, as I do every hurricane season, so hopefully this remains just a tropical storm and does not do too much.
So you can see the cone there on the right hand side. We've got a lot to talk about tonight, by the way, so we're going to be talking about pretty much everything that's out there. If you've got any questions or comments for us whilst we're on the air, start your message with Force13 all in text. I also forgot to introduce Marcel, who's also there too. Last but certainly not least, and I'm not sure if he is there because he's got a big mute icon on his thing, so he'll probably come in and interrupt me later on in the show. But we're looking at the cone there. I find it quite curious that I think we all find it curious that there's no watches in effect there for Florida, even though the first tropical storm icon is very close, within striking distance to Key West. Would anyone like to discuss that?
I'm a little bit surprised by it. I think it will happen with future advisories if the intensity is expected to keep where the NHC is predicting, but I guess they're just going for the worst case scenario right now, which is the northern Gulf Coast landfall.
Alright, we're doing a poll tonight. Do you think potential Tropical Cyclone 7 will reach hurricane status? That's because apparently Strat and Nelson have a bet on or something. I don't know, you tell me. What's going on?
People were just discussing it in the now public Discord server, so I thought we'd throw it up to see what everyone else thinks about it.
Well, so far after 41 votes already, 68% yes, 32% no. You can take part in that poll live as we're on the air here on Force 13's community tab. If you'd like to interact with us in that way, of course, you can always send us a message too if you've got any questions live, and we will be taking your comments. And predictably, Marcel did come in and interrupt me. Good evening, afternoon, I suppose it still might be. Marcel?
What?
Are you there? Oh, you are. Good.
Yeah.
What do you think of PTC 7 or anything else?
Well, I think it will be threat for Louisiana. Also, it always seems like it will be a weak to medium tropical storm. It can bring rain and something like that.
Yep, you can see this imagery here showing Florence on the far right hand side of the image, just about to enter the night area there. Last light of Florence. And on the left, of course, PTC 7, which is a pretty small system right now. There's also another system over there just off the Texas coast as well.
Well, but it's nothing like an invest or
yeah.
So I think it's just a common amount of thunderstorms and supercells.
Probably in exactly the same place as Harvey was this time last year, maybe minus a few days.
Yeah, that's really tough to remember. It's so fresh, you know, of what happened there the last year. So many places haven't recovered yet for those damages that Harvey done. Actually, it's the second or even the costliest storm worldwide, if I'm not wrong. So yeah, it's very difficult for those people, of course, to remember.
We're also looking at Jebi tonight, a Category 3, still a very significant storm, Stage 6 on the CDPS scale. It's likely to curve towards the northeast and strike Japan, although it's looking not too great in latest frames at all, and possible capitulation of the eye in recent frames.
Yeah, the eye is shrinking, and so of course that's a very good signal because it's weakening, and it's weakening kinda fast, I believe. But it's still representing a lot of danger, but because still the Joint Typhoon Warning Center says that Jebi will impact Japan as a typhoon, probably as a Category 1.
Yeah, they're saying that now, yeah.
So even that it's a Category 1, it will still represent a lot of danger for the people in Japan, because they have already been affected by lots of storms in the recent weeks.
And it's very close to where Cimarron struck.
Yeah, exactly.
But a different angle. And also taking it almost directly over Osaka, which is a major city in Japan.
Yeah, absolutely. So if Jebi affects Osaka, it will be a really, well, I don't want to that happen, but of course Japan is very vulnerable to receive a lot of damages from typhoons, and of course they had a lot of weather disasters recently, so they have been having rough times recently. So hopefully people are just taking all the preparedness.
Nathan, just reading some information on Jebi. Tracking north-northwest 11 knots over the last 6 hours. Animated infrared satellite imagery shows the system continue to weaken as indicated by warming central convection, unravelling feeder bands. However, the system has maintained a ragged but well-defined 18 nautical mile eye.
18
nautical mile, according to the
emphasis on the word ragged as well. It really is.
Yeah, they like using that word, but the eye has, well, how long has it had the eye? We know that it went under an eye wall replacement, but I agree with what Cesar said about a Cat 1.
On the subject
impact.
of Jebi here as well, here's the models, what they're saying right now, and you can see here a lot of their models, the GFS, the HWRF, and to a degree the CTCX, are calling for re-intensification in the final hours before that landfall, possibly back to Category 3 status. GFS thinks so, HWRF thinks so, going down to Cat 2 and then back up to 3.
Outrageous behavior.
Well, it is in an area of low wind shear, that's the thing.
Sea surface temperatures warm enough all the way up until landfall.
Yeah, 29, 30 Celsius, 5 to 10 knot vertical wind shear. It's very interesting, Nathan, what you just said about the models. The Joint Typhoon Warning Center, their position really hasn't changed really long term. They have it tracking across the Japanese Alps and accelerating northeast into the Sea of Japan, diminishing outflow dry air entrainment will promote the gradual weakening trend up to 24 hours. The addition of land interaction to cool the sea surface temperatures in the Sea of Japan will erode the system more rapidly, and within 48 hours will become a strong storm force cold core low with a expansive wind field in the Sea of Japan, northwest of Misawa. So they're saying something, and the models are indicating something else. But it's still a dangerous system. And following on to what Cesar said about the local conditions, we know that, unrelated to Jebi, that due to the massive rain activity, which has seen the Japanese Meteorological Agency issuing the various local warnings, flooding, rainfall, it's also impacted on the rail network. I'm not sure what areas, and also evacuation of around 7,000 people, which I referred to in a earlier update on the system.
All right. And if all of this information wasn't enough for you, we've also got another one. Hurricane Norman. Category 4 once again. If I can get it on the screen, well, there it is. Very big. That's not what I intended. We'll try and... Oh, well, you can see it anyway. There's Norman. That's the one I was looking for. There's the latest image of Norman right now, and it's looking pretty good. Category 4 once again.
Yeah, it has been a really impressive comeback from this storm. Can you remind me, guys, the reason of why Norman Weekend was a naval replacement cycle, or was just wind
Probably
shear?
a bad one, I don't know. And possibly some dry air as well. I'm not entirely sure. But very interesting on the left-hand side now. 6% chance of Hilo, Hawaii having storm conditions from Norman.
Wow,
true.
That's
Just say, it looked more of a risk yesterday. Models were further south, but they've kind of turned to the north again. So it's starting to look a bit less likely that we see any conditions from this storm on the islands.
Yeah, there's the National Hurricane Center's forecast chart for Norman. For those concerned about that, they still think it will go far away from the Hawaiian Islands, but at the minute, 6% chance. Very small chance, but, well, stranger
that's
things have
something
happened.
to take in consideration.
Stranger things.
Yeah.
And the Joint Typhoon Warning Center has at 11:28 nautical miles southwest of San Diego, tracking west-northwest 17 knots. Wave height is 31 feet, and they have it 115 knots, maximum sustained winds 115 knots, gusting 140, and 17.9 degrees north, 130 degrees west.
Yep. So, yes, go ahead.
I would also like to mention with the PTC 7, looking at satellite imagery, it looked like there was a possible, maybe there were possibly 2 circulations embedded within the storm, because looking at satellite imagery, it looked like it ejected a circulation. You might be able to barely make it out, racing its way off towards the Cuba. Racing its way off towards Cuba.
I believe Nelson is showing us this imagery, aren't you? Could you,
so.
I am.
could you possibly come back with some visible imagery as well, so we could have a look at how it's been looking from that perspective throughout today?
I will do that. Just give me a second, but I will transfer over to this right here, and you should see it in just a second. That is the geocolor.
So, Isaac, you looking at this as well? Can you point it out there on that image?
Hold on a second. I'm having some technical issues here. Minor technical issues here.
Okay.
I think
yeah, I see over towards the Bahamas there, right down like where that bigger. I'm not good with the Bahamas, but that big island right there, just to the south of it, you can see there's like a tiny rotation racing its way off towards northern Cuba in the last 2 frames there. If you could barely make it out, but it looks like an area of spin.
I think I have a better video quality in terms of pixels, so if you want to switch over to my screen share, it might be easier to see.
Already did.
Yeah, if you zoom in enough, you might be able to see it in the very last frames. This is the furthest I can go in, but there we go. Maybe see it at the very end.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Right about where I think.
We'll get some of the best quality from over here a little bit later on. But that's that. And what have models been saying about this?
Well, I mean, it's really taken models a bit to pick up on it. They're still not really initializing it very well. The Euro kind of dropped it really, which is, they've been pushing it the past couple of days, so it's interesting to see. Here's more of a zoom in. This is the GFS 12Z. This is what it shows right here. It has this very minimal tropical storm. You can barely see the 34-knot winds with it, and it moves it straight into Mississippi-Louisiana border from the southeast.
Now, bearing in mind this poll we're running tonight, are any of the models saying that it's going to be a hurricane?
I don't think so at the moment. Here, just for example, here's the European. It shows another weak storm hitting Louisiana. Very weak. I don't know if the icon's running. It hasn't updated since August, so it isn't. But if I go here, potential tropical cyclone 7, The ship in SHF5 want it to be a
Yeah,
hurricane, but
we
everything
don't.
else.
You know, they're
The
statistical
models.
models that think it
Yeah,
will continue to
exactly.
intensify after landfall into Category 1 status. Yes.
The models right here, not many of them have picked up yet, just because the storm wasn't really tagged right
That's the
now.
point.
So you don't really see many models here, but only the statistical ones really show up showing intensity.
Now, it appeared earlier today in our server that the team that some team members reached a consensus that it wouldn't become a hurricane.
I mean, it's moving pretty quick. If it has the chance to do it, it'd have to intensify unexpectedly. In terms of wind shear, if I come over here to the North Atlantic, I have to go back a little bit. It's in an area of low shear, that's why it's kind of organized faster than we expected, really. Originally, it's only had a 10%
Yeah, right.
chance of developing in the northeast Gulf of Mexico, but that's really changed quickly into the point where it's already potentially already a potential tropical cyclone. There is high shear in where it's heading, though. It's whether time will show whether or not that will change. That will really determine how strong the storm can get, because sea surface temperatures are more than conducive in the Gulf right now.
I just want to reiterate what the warnings, the watches as they are right now, what they are. A tropical storm watch has been issued. This happened at the top of the hour for portions of the central Gulf Coast from the Alabama-Florida border westward to east of Morgan City, Louisiana, including Lake Pontchartrain and Lake Maurepas. Is that how it's pronounced, Nelson?
Maurepas, yeah, you got it exactly right.
Thank you. And interest in the Florida Keys and the southern Florida Peninsula should monitor the progress of the system. Obviously, I'm surprised there's no watches out there at all. But well, that's what they think. And here is imagery of the
I think
last
because they
hour
don't
or
expect it to
so.
become a tropical storm until after it clears Florida.
No,
And-
not from what I saw.
Well, I mean, until like passes most of Florida, it may get tropical storm force winds. They might change it.
I think
But
this is
I'm just
unnecessary
saying,
not to.
I
I'm
don't
usually
think
I'm on
it's
the
gonna-
other side. Usually I'm saying they've issued warnings too soon, but I think the Florida Keys should have a watch out there.
Yeah.
Nathan,
Strat, I
sorry,
sent you a link for higher res imagery. Go ahead, David.
that's where the heaviest rainfall. The southern Florida region's expecting anywhere from 8 to 12 inches, and that's only conservative.
Interesting.
I noticed something, at least using the NHC forecast cone, and I think some of the models hint at it too, that once it moves inland, it slows down a bit. Not as drastically or stalling out, but they anticipate a slower movement to the northwest after it makes landfall. At least for a couple days before it just really dissipates.
Well, some models have been indicating it would be a rainmaker over there as well, right?
I think, let me pull up a computer model and see what it says for rainfall.
Yeah.
It tries to, the GFS tries to say, and this doesn't actually have just a storm, so this might be flawed. It tries to say like a widespread area of 5 inches, but I'm pretty sure the National Hurricane Center says much more than that.
So at this point in time, just clarifying what you said, Nathan, and that there's no warnings, localized warnings for Florida.
No tropical storm watches or warnings. I must check that there may be some sort of... There'll be something going on down there, I'm guessing. Some sort of statement maybe, but no actual warnings.
CBS 4 Miami reporting on Twitter, heavy rain flooding is expected Sunday night and into Monday as the tropical wave moves across South Florida.
Alright, I'll just read out a few things here just for Floridian interests. High rip current risk remains in effect through Monday evening along all Atlantic beaches of southeast Florida. And a hazardous weather outlook for the Florida Keys and adjacent coastal waters. Isolated to scattered thunderstorms are expected. The primary thunderstorm hazards will be lightning strikes and strong gusty winds. This is today and tonight. In addition, a small craft advisory may be required for at least a portion of the Marine District tonight. And then Monday through Saturday, they're expecting scattered thunderstorms accompanied by locally heavy rainfall. But I think there could well be a tropical storm, you never know. But there we are. So that's the news from Florida at the minute. Okay, if anyone's got any comments or questions for us, start your message with Force 13 all in text. We will respond if the time allows us. Asking about the Bahamas or Cuba. More of the same, I'm guessing, in relation to what I've just said about that.
The biggest impacts for Cuba and stuff are going to happen within the next day. There's been a pretty large flare-up over Cuba, actually, in the past couple of hours. I might pull up my screen share briefly again just to show that off. Here it is. There's been a pretty significant flare-up over about half of Cuba occurring in relation to potential tropical cyclone 7 within the past few hours or so. That's actually maintaining itself. I'm pretty sure it's pretty dangerous conditions in that area.
Yeah, that can happen quite often over Cuba, you know, a massive thunderstorm and it just blows up every so often over there.
Yeah, it's really developed mostly, let's see, I think this is a 7-hour run. No, this is actually only a 3-hour run. So within the past 3 hours, these thunderstorms have developed over about half of the island.
Yeah, definitely.
And then the rest of the impacts are starting to move towards the Bahama capital of Nassau right now.
Okay, let's see here. A lot of people asking, what's Force 13 Gaming?
You beat me to it, Nathan.
Now, let me just, not related to this at all, but Strat is starting up the first episode of Force 13 Gaming live on the channel later on this evening. What time?
8 p.m. Eastern, 0 UTC.
8 p.m. Eastern time.
The stream will actually be uploaded to the Force 13 Gaming YouTube channel.
Yes, there's a new channel on there, and we're trying to kickstart it by showing the first episode on the main channel. If it doesn't go well, blame Strat. Now, in the meantime, the same for Holders Unleashed, actually.
Putting all the pressure on me now.
I know. Well, all the pressure's on me right now as I bring to you this coverage of everything that's going on and making sure everyone speaks in turn, as I hope I'm allowing them to do. Dimitri, anything that you'd like to say right now?
Yes, I have something to say about Florence, and it's mainly having to do with the
Oh, well, before you go there, I've just got a question related to that. Ethan Bratton says, do you think Florence could make landfall in North Carolina?
Way too early to call on that. It's way too. Pardon.
I said, give us another 5 days before we say anything.
5 whole days. I know people don't like waiting, but I'm afraid you'll have to.
Way too early to call on that. From what I've been looking at here, the wind shear is increasing. So if that's the case, I'm going to show on the screen share here the diagnostic comparison, and the wind and the shear there is continuing to increase. So
we're not able to see that right now.
I'll see if I can pull it up for them. Florence is actually on the really far eastern end, so you actually have to switch to East Atlantic to see it, and this actually shows a lot of Africa and stuff. I'll actually pull it up for Dimitri here, and you can see it west of Cabo Verde. It's going to be battling shear pretty heavily for the next few days before it really lessens up. That seems to be, you know, and dry air as well. It's entering pretty stable air mass, the Saharan Air Layer.
Not great
until it moves far enough west to really get out of that, you're not really going to see any intensification. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the National Hurricane Center forecast intensity has it at 50 miles an hour for the next 4 days. Before intensification.
That explains why. That explains why it's not really that. The wind shear right there explains pretty clearly why it's not intensifying at all.
And the hurricane graveyard that is the Saharan Air Layer as well. I got to introduce Orlando if he's there. Are you there? I saw that he was available just a minute ago.
Oh yes, yeah, I'm here. I just muted myself temporarily.
Good evening. What do you make? Where do you want to begin tonight?
Well, besides the fact that the Jebi returns, basically we have PTC 7, and I'm a little nervous because this system has so far been unpredictable and has been underestimated by current computer guidance. So who knows what will come out of it. I'm just hoping that at the very least it remains as weak as possible, because the weaker the better, as I know there's spots down there that need rain, but neither should they have to deal with tropical cyclone as well.
And you can briefly see both of the Atlantic systems. Florence is quite a bit larger than PTC 7 at the minute. 7L is a very small system as they go.
Yeah, actually, the PTC 7 reminds me a bit of Tropical Storm Bonnie back in 2010, because it kinda formed in the same place, and it will take a kinda similar movement of like Bonnie did 8 years ago. I don't know if it's a good analog, but as Orlando said previously, hope
Didn't last very long.
Didn't last very long, and if weaker, is better, of course.
Indeed. So, just to reiterate, a tropical storm watch is in effect for the Alabama-Florida border westward to east of Morgan City, Louisiana. And Nelson, one of our members here, is in that cone. And, well, Nelson, is anyone talking about it right now?
It was started to be talked about on the local news last night. The city of New Orleans has already approved extra monies from the budget to clear out the storm drains and catch basins. If we do get rain, and we get a lot of rain around here, there's always localized street flooding, so the New Orleans Police Department has also put out the barricades in anticipation of closing streets.
Yeah, I see. And thinking about it, I guess on our list of worst case scenarios right now, you might think it could do something a bit like an Isaac of 2012 perhaps. And what was that like for you?
I was in Baton Rouge for Isaac of 2012. It was it was intense at some points for sure. We lost power for 3 or 4 days.
Wow.
But I hope it's not anything like Isaac. I really hope it stays down as a tropical storm, just to minimize the impact on life and property, because it is far too hot here to not have air conditioning.
Yes, indeed. That would be bad.
Absolutely.
This is. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Don't worry.
Yours is more related to it.
Well, I was just like pointing the comment of Nelson's that of course the impacts of Isaac back on that date were pretty bad, and of course several storms have affected significantly Louisiana. Remembering as well, Lee in 2011 was pretty bad as well. So hopefully the scenario in the coming days of this potential tropical cyclone won't be significant. But yeah, go ahead right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is a bit off topic, but we had a question in chat asking what we thought about. I think we were talking about last night in private, an unnamed storm in the Central Pacific.
We were talking about that today. Yes.
Yeah, I
was.
didn't get to see much of it, but do you want to talk about it?
Definitely a tropical storm in the Central Pacific, very near the international date line. I wasn't prepared for this, so I can't bring you any imagery of it, but it really looked the part. I wonder if I could just go and grab one that I caught earlier, but it might take me a minute or two. So the minute you're left looking at... In fact, yes, I do have an image of it here. That is what it looked like. That's what we posted onto our social mediums early this morning. Nearly 24 hours ago. It was looking good. Mid-range tropical storm. That was around 38 degrees north, 178 degrees west. And that was out in the middle of nowhere, wasn't affecting any land areas. But that is one that the authorities have missed out on.
Yeah, and that
That's
means
96C, isn't it?
96C, yes.
And winds 40, central pressure 1001, and located 41.4 north, 178.1 west.
And I think that means we had a poll a while ago asking if there be Central Pacific form storms there. It turns out the majority of people were correct.
It was a nearly unanimous. We are running another poll tonight. Do you think potential tropical cyclone 7 will reach hurricane status? We're still at 68% yes. You can vote on that in the community tab of the Force 13 channel. Just to take some comments, in fact, almost all the people commenting are on the no side. AS1238 says it doesn't have enough time and wind shear will take its toll on the system. Games Division says it looks like it will peak as a strong tropical storm. A hurricane is unlikely, but definitely possible. Norway Tracking says that he sees a 50 to 70 mile an hour storm at peak. Richard Lee says there's high wind shear and a ridge to the southwest, which may hinder development. Doesn't believe it will reach hurricane strength. And Gene's son is the only one who's commented it saying yes, because it's a small compact system and that its intensity is more uncertain than usual. That is a valid point.
And National Weather Service Miami has a local advisory in place.
In relation
That's
to a marine weather warning.
Yeah, marine weather statement. What have we got? 6:30 p.m. Wind gusts to 30 knots. That's National Weather Service, Miami, South Florida.
Yeah, I was also just looking at the National Weather Service. There actually is a gale warning west of Florida off the coast right now.
Over the high seas, indeed. And of course the tropical storm watch that's in effect for Louisiana and all points towards Florida, the border with Alabama and Florida. Okay, let's see here. Is the storm near Miami hitting Tampa? Interesting question. Are they referring to the actual PTC or another system, a smaller one?
I think they're referencing the PTC.
Miami, it'll pass very close, but the effects might be more minimal depending on how close it gets. But it's more likely to track through the Florida Straits. Tampa, it all depends, but for the time being, at least, it's not the most likely forecast or track.
And there you can see Typhoon Jebi once more, and I guess we should discuss that for a little while because that is going on to approach the Japanese islands, and I don't know if anyone would like to begin on that.
Yeah, that's an image from earlier, about 10 minutes ago. There's the sun started going over the storm. I believe right now it's a 105 knot system as it's heading over towards Japan.
That's according to the JTWC. Our latest estimate is 123 miles an hour, which is very close to what they're saying.
I think another fortunate thing with it is that not only is it looking like it's weakening, although some of the models do show potential intensification right on the approach of landfall. is that its forward motion is definitely going to be picking up as well. So the worst conditions won't be sticking around for as long as it seems.
Yeah. It successfully completed out of EWRC overnight, and it's looking a little bit disheveled now, but still looking a powerful, dangerous major typhoon.
Yeah, and David posted a warning graphic. I think
Yes, I'm just sending the info through.
I'll be able to screen share this. And this is the current warnings for all of Japan right now.
Slow down. Now we've got it.
This is from the Japan Meteorological Agency. Here's all the warnings.
Now these are sea warnings.
Yes.
The typhoon warnings on the seas are definitely approaching Japan right near Osaka and Kyoto right now.
Yes, but
Typhoon warning for the sea east of Okinawa.
there are no warnings on any of the main Japanese islands at this time.
No.
But that's
And
how
you
the
see
seas
a
are
little
looking.
bit of red, Nathan, on that graphic. The red, that's, what is it, tropical storm?
Yeah, tropical storm is red, typhoon's pink, purplish.
Well, orange is gale, and that usually means 40 miles an hour or more. Storm is probably something like 60 miles an hour, and typhoon's obviously hurricane force.
There's a warning for the sea around Amami. What's the second word to it?
Well, just the Amami Islands, right?
Yeah, so northerly winds will continue maximum 35 knots. Northerly winds increase to 50 knots. Northeasterly winds increase to maximum 80 knots by 0321:00 Japan time.
Indeed, so there's a lot to be covering right now, and there's several systems affecting areas, and there's so much going on, isn't there?
I was gonna say, it's a pretty active time.
Okay, what would we like to discuss next? Where are we going next? We're sticking with
I
this
don't really
imagery
think
of
we've touched
Jebi
on the
here.
Eastern Pacific yet, have we?
Well, is there really too much to say on that?
I don't know if you guys have talked too much on Norman, but it's looking a little bit better now than it did like a day or two ago.
It certainly is. It's got a decent eye.
Yeah, they're saying it did make a pretty unexpected comeback back to Category 4 status, and it's remained like that for quite a few hours now. Satellite imagery honestly looks like it's continuing to improve. The eye's gotten more uniform and is still trying to warm out more.
Yeah.
As the latest GFS run is coming out, I'd like to mention that so far it seems as though it's underestimating the storm's possibility of formation. I don't know what that portends.
It seems like the GFS has under-initialized in terms of intensity with storms.
It's always doing that at the minute.
And then it always goes overboard with the pressure.
I don't know what to say about that.
The GFS is I honestly think it was better like a year or two ago than it is now.
Well, they did that upgrade at some point during, what was it, 2017 or whenever it was.
More like a downgrade.
A downgrade. Well, it seems to be going that way at the minute. Everything seems to be going on the... People think that they can make it better when it appears that things have been made worse. Well...
I guess it's...
They must have published some reports on how well they've done year on year, and they must have had a bad year.
Yeah, the model itself has basically it's... I don't know what they did. I don't know if they like made an error and they're like trying to correct it. I guess it's like something already like perfect as it is. Of course, no model is perfect, but As good as it was, I guess they thought they could make it better, but
Well, speaking of
didn't go
which,
that far.
Strat, would you like to take us through some of the models for the Pacific, east or west?
Yeah.
Take your pick.
Go through Pacific. I'll start with the Eastern Pacific just because it's a bit easier to get there from the get-go. And look at a 1080p and show this off. Here's the Eastern Pacific model runs. This is the... I have to actually go back to the 12Z because 18 isn't fully out yet. So we're going to go back another 6 hours. Here's the GFS run. Norman on the left is a much stronger Storm. Olivia really struggling on the right side. But the GFS quickly intensifies Olivia as you see Norman go off towards the Central Pacific.
And how strong does Olivia get there?
If I specify in on the system in particular, it shows it getting, let's see, 77 knots is what it says it'll peak at before it starts to weaken as it enters colder and colder waters and more stable air mass as we get towards day 4 and 5. I think it dissipates it around then as well. But what it doesn't dissipate that quickly is definitely going to be Norman. It still has it as a hurricane. Still has it as a hurricane 5 days out. That's more than what other models are saying.
More than the NAC is saying.
Yep. It keeps it alive as a storm probably another good 7 days or so. If I do a wide shot of the Central Pacific, you'll see it start to head off the screen, starting to move northeast at around 190 hours. It's obviously 2 out for sure. But the fortunate thing, and this is really the important thing, models have turned a bit more northerly with the storm in the past couple of days. So that means hopefully that Hawaii is out of the gun again. Just for comparison, the European, which has been further north the whole time, continues to hold that position and turns it away, and weakens it as it moves northward towards colder waters. So Hawaii looks pretty safe right now, but Norman could remain a hurricane until at least 5 days from now. And just to take another,
gonna be another one of those.
Yeah.
The third one.
Just to switch to another take, we can take a look at the Atlantic Ocean as well, because that's where a lot of people are interested in.
Yep.
It's the 12Z run. There's 7, or PTC 7 there, hitting Louisiana's minimal tropical storm. It holds true with most of the other models and keeps Florence at a low intensity for about 5 days before making it a hurricane. And, you know, this is obviously too far out, but it brings it a landfall towards Newfoundland, which... it's been interesting to note the models moved this storm significantly further west in their long-term forecasts over the past 3 days or so. Originally, they had it recurving out in the central Atlantic, and now they continue to push it significantly further west right now.
One or two did a bit of a stalling thing, and another one did a bit of a Gaston.
Yeah, I think the GFS stalls it out for a couple of days, really not moving a lot. Brings it as a threat to Bermuda, and then races up towards Newfoundland. It's interesting to note other models bring it even further west. Here's just the model spread going out to 7 days. Pretty uniform through day 3, but then you start to see a bit of a spread, although not much really. They're still pretty aligned with each other. So, you know, we can say with a pretty decent consensus right now where it's going to be heading in the next 5 days or so, but after that, that's when things get very much more uncertain, because originally there was forecast to be a trough that was managed to dip in through the high pressure and take it out to sea. But that's changed to the point where the ridge is going to be stronger than what the long-range models initially said, so that's not going to be able to happen. So that makes the long-range forecast harder for us to tell.
It certainly does. Anything else that you can see on there? New developments anywhere?
In terms of new developments behind it, I'm pretty sure the
Now,
GFS doesn't really...
on the
pick up
Westpac,
much.
the GFS earlier at one point said that there'd be a new storm in the West Pacific near the southern Ryukyu Islands, perhaps.
Doesn't seem like it's picking up on that anymore.
Not picking up on it anymore.
Seems that was a one-off, and the other models don't pick up on it either. So, fortunately, it looks like after Jebi goes through, we might have finally a bit of a break here in the Western Pacific.
Yeah.
27 named storms already, so had to
The
deal
Pacific
with a
has
lot.
been completely nuts.
Yeah. But all the models, Euro included, show absolutely nothing for... Well, actually, the Euro tries to develop something in the South China Sea about a week from now.
Yeah,
right down
the
here.
yeah the general situation in the Western Pacific is likely to change. Um, I predicted for it to begin dying down.
Seems like we might get a bit of a hiatus. It's hard to tell. The Euro's been more jumping on the activity train.
And what about this third Atlantic wave?
Yeah, I was gonna say the Euro's been really on train for tropical waves lately. Here's 72 hours from now with the 12Z. Here's Florence. It keeps Florence really weak for.
Yep.
It might even
And
dissipate
two
it.
things behind it, and what already a
Before it
mature
re-intensifies.
tropical cyclone.
Yeah, re-intensifies Florence as we get to a week out. Then we have another pretty significant storm west of the Cabo Verde Islands. Interesting to see. It takes it on a similar path to Florence, and then we have this other weird feature right off just south of Western Sahara and right on Mauritania.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
No, I'm not kidding you.
Throw that one out the window.
And then you have another little wave southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands. The Euro's really trying to generate a lot of Cape Verde type systems, which is interesting because we were really expecting below average activity. A baby, apparently.
Okay, well, someone's babysitting somewhere. I don't know. It's not here.
But it's interesting because we were really expecting below average activity in the main development region, and it seems like that might be changing up a bit.
And that is what Florence looks like right now on the infrared imagery and how it's been looking. It's been trying its spirited effort, but it's staying fairly weak. How about it?
Yeah, and the NHCs agree with that. They maintain Florence as a tropical storm, and for now, it's not predicted to affect any land area, so that's some good news for now. But it's way too early to say what will gonna happen with the storm after the next 5 days, because the cone gets very, very big, and the mistakes gets bigger, of course. But for now, yeah, Florence is trying to survive the Saharan dust. Saharan dust that I think is the principal issue for Florence.
Yeah, if you've got any questions or comments for us whilst we're on the air, do send us a message. Start your message in the chat if you're watching us live with Force 13, all in text. It will highlight for me nicely, and we'll be able to field your questions. Now's a good time to do it because we're just about to reach the end of the hour, and we're sort of in a little bit of a limbo state at the minute whilst we wait for something else to happen. So now's a good time for questions, but we'll wait and see on that. As you can see on the left hand side and above me, all of the storms that are active right now, there's quite a busy period. We're into the early part of September now. The traditional peak of the Atlantic hurricane season's coming up in about a week's time. And is that David wanting to tell us something?
Yes, Nathan. Apology for those viewing the live stream on the Facebook page. I've had to terminate the link. My computer's developed an issue, but I hope to restore it.
Oh gosh. Well, I hope you told them that they can keep watching on the YouTube page. Please do.
Yes, I have.
All right then. What have we got here?
We're starting to get some questions. Someone's asking about Invest 91L. 91L is PTC 7.
Yep, that's right.
That's what we're seeing.
The ace value for the Central and East Pacific. Well, I'll let you speculate on that one, Strat.
Let's just say above average. That's it. And I wanted to show an interesting graphic as well. We were talking about the Saharan Air Layer. This just goes to show what it looks like, really. If you want to pull that up. Florence making a nice puncture in it as it moves west-northwest, but it's definitely going to be taking its toll on the storm.
There it is.
It's moving straight into it, really. It's trying to trade itself out, but you can see Dryer kind of trying to hamper it, moving into it from the west and southwest sides. pretty big plume trying to come off right behind it as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how it handles it if that dry air moves towards the system quicker than it moves away from it.
It's very interesting to see that, and what that might mean for one of those systems that the ECMWF develops if they happen.
I think the ECMWF keeps the other waves a bit further south.
I mean, it may end up being that this system further south could be the one that develops, and Florence is sort of the one that clears the road.
I've noticed, what is it? The models, this is long range, but the models, once it gets a week out, towards the point where, let's say it's due north of the eastern Leeward Islands, that's when they try to intensify it when it's away from the dry air. So that's when it might have an opportunity to really do something.
It's got about 3 days of battling ahead of it, though.
It does, and the National Hurricane Center says it will remain at the exact same intensity for the next 3 days.
Wouldn't surprise me with all that dry air there.
Very
drier
interesting.
air, higher shear, not very warm sea surface temperatures. It could potentially weaken a bit as well.
Yep. So there we are. That's Florence and PTC 7 near the left-hand side there. You can just about make it out near the Bahamas. 69% think it will reach hurricane status on our live poll on the community tab of our channel. What do you guys think of that?
Considering the shear in the Gulf right now and the limited time it's going to have, it is moving pretty quickly. Probably not.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's I don't think there's enough time to develop it into a hurricane. Maybe a tropical storm. That's probably why there's the watch.
Does anyone here think it will get to hurricane status? And what's your reasoning? No, I don't think there's anyone. Okay then.
Hello.
Only if it slows down, but there's no signs of it slowing down.
Yeah.
My only worry is that there's Mexico right now, and so it does have favorable conditions to intensify. I'm not sold that it's going to intensify to Category 1 strength.
Alright, well we're going to leave it there for this hour. We'll be back shortly with more on all of the systems that are currently active. Just to reiterate, a tropical storm watch in effect for the Alabama-Florida border to east of Morgan City, Louisiana. Gale advisories in effect for the Amami Islands of Japan. In fact, most of Kagoshima now is under a gale advisory. That's been extended in the last hour, as well as the Daito Islands. We'll be back in a minute to talk more about that and everything else. Stay tuned.
Stay safe, everyone.
Continues in a moment.
You can follow Force 13's outlets, the website, force13.com, our YouTube page, youtube.com/Force13, on Facebook under the same name, Force13, and our Twitter handle, it's @Force13 if you wish to get in touch. You can also add Force13 on Skype, and my personal account on Discord, Fool13, at extension 9094. watching Force 13's live streaming service. So let's continue this hour because I've not got the prerequisite imagery to show you. I will have that in just a minute because there's been some sort of technical glitch. Let me just reiterate the information for potential tropical cyclone 7. It's at the advisory was at 22.7 north, 77.3 west. 100 miles from Camagüey in Cuba, 275 miles from Marathon, Florida, with winds of 30 miles per hour and a pressure of 1012. A tropical storm watch has been issued for portions of the central Gulf Coast from the Alabama-Florida border to east of Morgan City, Louisiana, including Lake Pontchartrain and Lake Maurepas. So that is the current situation, with also the potential for it to become a tropical storm very close to the Gulf Coast of Florida, which certainly staggered me as to how it didn't get potential a tropical storm watch on that. I'm still waiting for the imagery to load with the latest image and information on those two other systems. I can also tell you about Norman. It's still there in the Eastern Pacific. If you missed us talking about that, we didn't talk about it very much because it is out there in the Eastern Pacific. 130 miles an hour. It reached that giddy height of Category 4 intensity again, and believe it or not, a 6% chance of tropical storm conditions in Hilo, Hawaii. That's just crazy. Current temperature at Force 13, 66 degrees. We've also got Olivia just behind Norman as well. A fairly weak system at the minute. Some models saying that could get to significant hurricane status as well. Possibly even to Category 3. Florence is a CDPS Stage 1 and Jebi is Stage 6 on the CDPS scale right now. Unfortunately, the graphics are still not there for me to be able to show you, so I may as well not labour on any longer and bring back the Discord team at this hour. Good evening.
Good evening, and good to be here for the second hour.
It is good to be here. It started a little bit low-key because nothing's working over here all of a sudden. There we are. A button wasn't pressed properly, if that is possible. But if you've got any comments or questions for us whilst we're on the air, you can send us a message right now. Start your message with Force 13 all in text. And there is one question: has there even been a 10 on the CDPS scale? And we've had that question before in previous streams, and one or two storms have indeed done that. Which storm did do that though? I believe it was Gilbert that managed to reach that intensity.
Or 3 that hit it? I can't
remember which one the other one was. Maybe Sandy got near that intensity. I'm not sure.
Really? Well, Sandy had a huge wind.
I can't remember on the CDPS. But yes, one or two storms have done it. Sorry, I was just dealing with something. Yes, go ahead.
Someone's saying, is it weird that there's more tropical cyclones in this day in 2018 than last year? I think in the Atlantic it's definitely not the case.
Oh, it's starting to play now. All right, we're gonna take this instead. This is the latest. In case you didn't know, that's the latest information on those storms. And there's Florence. It's just less than 1,800 miles east of Guadalupe now. Stage 1 on the CDPS. Still not very much of a threat yet, but it's one we will be watching in the long term.
Yeah, it's supposed to be unless it underwhelms even further than what it already has
I know.
according to the models and the National Hurricane Center.
Crazy.
It'll probably be around for quite a while, at least another week or so at this point. So, gonna be a while. We're gonna see what happens with it.
So there we are. Gale advisory, as stated, that bottom part will change shortly to say the Daito Islands, Daito-jima, and most of Kagoshima, including the Amami Islands now. And obviously, invariably, we're going to see those warnings extend.
Yeah. Someone's asking what norm it is on the CDPS scale at the moment.
I expect it will be somewhere like stage 5 or 6. I don't actually know at this time. I've not had the means to be able to run the numbers. But I believe it would be somewhere around the middle.
Yeah, I think it's moving pretty quickly right now. It's moving west-northwest at 20 miles an hour, so that would lower its rating as well.
Yeah, quite potentially. Devon knows more than anyone about any of that. I don't know if he's available tonight, but there we are. And latest imagery on Jebi, it looks like, well, what is it doing? Any comment on that right now? Really struggling with the western side.
Yeah, it's in lower shear, but it might be some dry air trying to seep into it. I don't have imagery for that in particular.
The western band has really become quite detached.
Yeah, and the eye's trying to cloud over at the same time.
It is, yes.
Definitely looks like a weakening process for sure. Let's hope it maintains that. It's just still over warm waters and low wind shear, so it does have the chance of re-intensifying slightly before it really continues to move quickly to the north-northeast over probably 2 days from now when it makes landfall.
Wonder if we could get some visible imagery of this now, because it should be over daylight.
Yeah, daybreak's probably just about happening there. It's I think it's about 7 a.m. that time, or Hawaii time there, so we might be able to get a couple of frames.
There is one of the first visible images of Jebi as we see it today. Are you able to see this? What do you think of that?
Still looks like an intense typhoon, but definitely not anything it held 2 days ago, for sure.
And do you think it's going to increase in size massively? You'd expect that.
Well, if it's going to get picked up by a trough, we should probably just assume it's going to increase in size. Hopefully its intensity continues to drop, although it's maintaining itself for now, it seems.
And one or two of the models suggesting a little bit of weakening before re-strengthening just before striking Japan remains to be seen, and that's what I'd be worried about personally.
Yeah, because it looks like it's going to have good conditions all the way up to landfall. I'll try to pull up a sea surface temperature thing for us right now.
Well, we may as well look at sea surface temperatures around the globe if you've got that.
I do have around the globe, actually. Let me zoom in on this a bit before I screen share it. And here we go. Let's get 1080p. Screen share, here it is. 29s and 28s all the way up towards Japan, so sea surface temperature is definitely warm enough to hold it.
Yeah,
there.
no doubt.
Colder where Florence is, you're going to see some 26s and 25s where it's heading right now.
And that is another problem facing it, another hurdle for strengthening.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's, I talked about this in yesterday's video that I made, but it's entering areas of 1 to 2 degrees Celsius below average sea surface temperatures in that area, so 26 and 25 degrees Celsius along with higher wind shear and drier air. I wouldn't be surprised if we see further weakening with the system, although right now forecast calls for it to maintain its intensity for the next few days.
There's I've just edited this image of the same image we were looking at a minute ago. First imagery of Typhoon Jebi right now. Looks fantastic from a observer's point of view, but obviously not on the ground, as its band is beginning to affect those islands, and it's going to be downhill from here.
Yeah, conditions are definitely going to start deteriorating in Japan as we keep going.
And then you're looking into the Gulf there, maybe touching 30 degrees Celsius waters.
Yeah, Gulf 29 and 30 pretty steady. So if shear lessens up, there could be a chance for intensification of the storm. I think that's what most of the people watching right now are relying on when they say the storm will reach hurricane intensity. I know that pulls around 70% yes right now. And back in the Eastern Pacific, where Norman and Olivia are, Norman's kind of towing the line of sufficient sea surface temperatures right now, so a little bit left before it really turns northward and weakens. And then where Olivia is right now, it's in warm conditions, but probably 3 days from now, it's going to move out of them and probably fall apart. It's interesting to note, this is just, further away. Was this 32 degrees Celsius here in the Gulf of Aden?
Why are you looking at the Gulf of Aden?
I don't. It's just really pink there. I had to take note of it a little bit.
Well, it's typically like that, to be honest. Yes.
But I just want to get a bit of a zoom.
But you're looking at the West Pacific there. It's really not running out of energy very much, is it?
No, here's the Western Pacific.
You can see it's full of upwelling ruptures there.
Yeah, there's just been so much activity that we've really seen a lot of that. I think you can barely make out Cimarron's trail just a little bit. Sulix is gone, it seems. Actually, this one might be Sulix, not Cimarron's. It's hard to tell at this point, really.
Oh, who knows?
Oh, we got 97W. Is it 97?
97W. High shear, warm water, but it's not even on the JTWC page, I don't think. But if we switch over to the Atlantic...
Yeah, please show us that.
Florence is going to be in 26s and 25s right now. So it's going to battle for its life. Like I said, it could probably even weaken down to tropical depression status.
Ooh, that's a bit harsh.
It's been really underwhelming so far. It developed weaker than they expected it to be, and it's in very hostile conditions. But PTC 7 going to be entering 29s and 30s all the way until landfall in Louisiana. I'm actually, this is a bit off. I'm surprised it says it's this cold up here by the northeast. I think it's a little bit warmer up here.
Where Long Island is?
Yeah, around Long Island, south of it at least.
I haven't checked anything involving those temperatures, so I have no idea about the water temperature there.
I think we're getting at least a few degrees Celsius warmer than 20, but if you move further towards the coastline, that's what you might be able to see. But these are sea surface temperatures right now across the tropical Atlantic.
And just a question there, will 97L do anything? Can you point us to where it is? Where is that
97L or W?
They said 97L, but I assume they mean W, actually. That's what I thought they were saying.
I have to find where it is first. Let's
David, where is it?
Yeah,
is it the one furthest? There's a few little systems over there.
There's 96C, which they didn't name it.
That was that tropical storm that they haven't named.
That's 96C.
And
a 97W appears to be the one down here. Okay, let's get this imagery here. I think this is 97W that we're looking at now.
Yeah, it's like around 10 north and 160 east, so it would be in very warm sea surface. I'm assuming there's a really high shear, which is blocking it from any development whatsoever.
It's near an island. Well, I'm just waiting for it to come up on the screen.
And if we pan up here, you can see just how far north that 96C was. What we thought was a tropical storm last night. It's pretty much gone now, and it's closer to the Aleutian Islands than it is the Hawaiian Islands by some distance.
Yeah, it's gotten pretty far north. Someone's asking if PTC.
Oh, is it that thing a little bit further south? Okay, now it's put up a little dialogue box. I have no idea what that is. I can't tell if it's actually that up there near the top, or whether it's the one a bit further down. Looks horribly disorganized now. It might be that one.
It's hard to tell. Someone's asking if PTC 7 has been designated. Yes, it has.
97W, 10 north, 160 east. And it's near an island. I'm just
So
waiting
this
for
little
the-
feature here near the Marshall Islands. Oh no, it's Eastern Micronesia.
No. It's only. I think the name of the island's about 4 letters.
Well, that's
And,
very helpful. This cryptic game that we're
yeah,
playing.
I'm sorry. Computer is being very slow.
Yeah, I'm interested. It's been a few hours. What are the tropical storm chances for the Japanese mainland right now?
Well, they're still very much the same as what they were before. 88% in Osaka right now.
Want to see? I haven't seen the new track update, so I'm curious to see if they moved the storm east or west. They actually shifted the track slightly to the west in the new update.
Well, there is no Invest 97L in the Atlantic, just in case you needed to know. But let's go back. I just want to show the National Hurricane Center website just to clear up any confusion that there may be. It's potential tropical cyclone 7, which is here located near Cuba with winds of 30 miles per hour. Tropical storm Florence, which has winds of 50 miles an hour and a pressure of 1,000 millibars. And then this disturbance behind it on the African coastline, 20% chance in the next 5 days, and as far as I know has not been designated as an invest.
No, I've seen nothing of it on the ATCF, so I would doubt it.
Here's the Eastern Pacific. Norman's there, 130 miles an hour. Olivia, 45. And I think there's that 20% chance for another system behind Olivia as well. Central Pacific, Miriam is finally dead. And there's a system here near 0% chance of development in the next 5 days in the Central Pacific.
It was really interesting to see Miriam maintain hurricane status while having no convection on the center. That was something that I don't think you see very often at all.
This is something that Nelson sent us here, a National Weather Service chart showing the areas that are in the sort of light red colouring there. That's all a tropical storm watch. Nelson, you're here to talk about it.
I am. This recently came out from the National Weather Service LIX, which is New Orleans and Baton Rouge's local office. They've changed the watches and warnings to issue them by parish. Assumption, East Baton Rouge, Hancock in Mississippi, Harrison in Mississippi, Iberville, Jackson, Livingston, and basically everything that you see there. But those are the larger parishes mentioned.
Now, let me read out some Florida news about flood warnings here. In fact, I'll just get to that in a moment. I'd just like to be able to show up some more imagery before we do that.
And while you're looking for the imagery, Nathan, the city of New Orleans has advised through the Sewage and Water Board that 115 of the city's 120 flood pumps are currently working.
Alright, well, hopefully they won't need that extra 5. There's a flood warning in Florida for these rivers. The Withlacoochee, is that right? Withlacoochee, rather. River at Trilby, the Little Manatee River at Wimauma, the Peace River at Zolfo Springs, and at Arcadia. Flood warning there. Also for the following rivers: Cypress Creek at Worthington Gardens and Miaka River at Miaka River State Park. Heavy rain due to summertime thunderstorms has caused many rivers in the area to rise into minor flood stage. The reason why this is important is because PTC 7 could also deliver further rain to these areas. But at the minute, minor flood warning in that area. And as I was put into that gear because of what I saw on Nelson's screen there, there's some flood watches of some description nearby your area too.
Yes, there are, and let
that's
me
related
just
to that other little system over near that area.
That is, there's a non-tropical system over western Louisiana, eastern Texas right now. It's actually fairly quite large, and in some of the imagery we've shown, you can see it. But it is dumping a lot of rain over central and western Louisiana at the moment.
There it is on radar. You can see a lot of rain just west of Lake Charles there. And a lot staying
Yeah,
just
I'll,
offshore.
I'll
Gee,
actually
it's a lot.
pull up
So-
the satellite imagery to show this.
So flash flood watches for large areas here, and this might set up nastily for PTC 7 to follow through. Let's hope not.
Yeah, you can see I have some satellite imagery right now. Rain passed through Florida earlier today, and then you can also see that really big system in the Gulf of Mexico that's been prompting the flood warnings in western Louisiana and eastern Texas as well. And then on the very bottom right corner
That's
of the
really
screen,
that's vigorous at the minute.
it is pretty intense. It's been maintaining itself pretty well. And at the very bottom right, you can see a very big flare-up of thunderstorms over most of Cuba associated with PTC 7. They've developed pretty intensely within the past few hours.
Yes, I was just looking at some more questions, or answers even. Hurricane Coldnut says, some models show Florence reaching category 3 or 4. I don't think we've seen that, have we, Strat?
I haven't seen that, and if any of them do, they're going to be statistical models that aren't based on any of the current conditions. So that's definitely to be written off as a fallacy. Don't expect that at all.
There we are.
You know, probably the most we're going to see from this is a minimal hurricane if it gets lucky.
And people asking when Force 13 will produce the next tropical weather bulletin. Consider this to be the tropical weather bulletin, only it's expanded into at least 2 hours that we're running tonight. If you have any further questions for us on the air, if you've got any place names that you're concerned about, or whether you live there, whether you know someone who lives there, we'll try and give you a forecast in relation to these storms anywhere in Florida, anywhere along the Gulf Coast, and we'll give you our best analysis. But just to give you another wide shot of Jebi right now in the Western Pacific, that is probably the most dangerous storm in the world right now. It's not the strongest, because Norman blew it out of the water again earlier today and re-intensified. It looked like it was dying. It came back.
Yeah, it was, you know, they even said it in the forecast discussion that it was really unexpected. Let's see, we have a question asking us what we consider calm of 2016 to be.
I think he already knows the answer to that.
I'm pretty sure he's trying to make that a rhetorical question, but nothing.
Nothing much. It wasn't that far away. It really wasn't, but it was not a tropical storm.
Someone's asking, where do the graph combos with the forecast track intensity and conditions come from?
We say this every time, but people don't
from
seem to be
RAM.
listening. These are the RAM images that you can find quite handily on their website.
And someone's also asking, saying, I know this is a topic, but what do you expect the windstorm season in Europe to look like?
Oh dear, we're going a bit off topic there, and I wouldn't want to be drawn to answering that question at this stage. Here is what the Norman projection looks like, and you can see on that chart there just how drastically it re-intensified. Not many storms in the East Pacific do that. They're pretty straightforward, case closed, intensify, weaken, die. But this one has a second peak, and one model there, that's the ship's model, so we'll ignore that one. All of the models therefore say that the storm will weaken from here on in.
Yeah, although it still looks pretty impressive on satellite imagery.
Yeah, certainly.
Looks like it's actually still been improving most of the day, although it is going to be entering less favorable conditions quite soon.
Now that isn't showing us very much at all for 7 L. We'll try and get some more data on that one as soon as we can. And this is Florence, and you know, most of the models having it holding on. The GFS is being a bit trigger happy with it, perhaps. It's quite a bit above the NHC guidance to eventually reach hurricane status, but nothing like category 3 or 4.
Let's see.
And also that wind shear will be on the increase.
Yeah. Actually, this is something interesting to notice. The HWRF actually weakens Florence to a tropical depression as we get towards days 4 and 5.
You look at all of this, all these graphics here, Strat. With wind shear rising on day 2 to 4, SST's rising a little bit, relative humidity dropping a little bit. I don't see much of an argument for any strengthening at all, and probably weakening in the next few days.
Yeah. The HWRF and the H1 both show it weakening into a tropical depression, if not dissipating.
But
so,
then you look at the very end of that there, wind shear drops, SSTs are up, relative humidity is marginal, there could be room for regeneration.
Yeah. I think, at least in terms of what potential intensity lies, I think the Euro kind of shows it well a little bit. It has it maybe even dissipating by day 5 before regenerating and intensifying quite substantially through the rest of its run. So basically what models are trying to say is that if it probably weakens and maybe dissipates, but if it survives as a recognizable thing, by the time we enter a bit more long range, that it'll have a chance to really intensify and reform if it does dissipate, because at that point it'll be in more favorable areas. Someone's asking if they're in New Jersey, if they should be concerned about Florence. Way too far out.
I would say no.
Wait till next weekend.
I would say no. I just checked the water temperatures. Because near my area, they're in the low to mid 70s in Fahrenheit. I think around 21 to 23 Celsius. I think that's just way too low.
But if a storm's moving quickly, it can still impact quite significantly. I just think in this case that it's definitely, you know, long range, come back in half a week or so. Although it is notable that models have moved very further west with this system than what they were saying 2 days ago.
That is interesting to note, but yeah, I agree with you. It's a little too far out to call right now. It just feels like it's like I think it's definitely we'll wait and see, but I think it's a little early to call New Jersey in the path of trouble.
Yeah, this is actually something interesting. The 18Z GFS run just came out.
Strat, before you go on to that, I want to show something that's arguably even more interesting. And this is GOES 17 imagery of Norman right now. And by our reckoning, we think it's much stronger than the 130 that the NHC is quoting right now.
What do we think it is?
The latest estimate from our satellite estimate analysis is 148.
Did not expect that.
So Norman looking very good. That is based off just one image, so we're just going to have to clarify that and whether it's looked that good for long enough to say that properly.
It's looked pretty similar to that for around 2 hours or so.
But there is Norman right now looking very nice indeed. Here it is on the visible as well from GOES East. And you can see a bit of a shallow eye still. That is the main letdown point, but the cloud tops and the eye wall around it looking very good indeed. Over to you.
We have some more questions asking about US being worried about Florence. Like we just said, still significantly too far out. But I do want to show the 18Z GFS that just started initializing. It goes out to 186 hours now. Let me zoom out just a tiny bit. Here's Florence here at 18Z. Shows it as a pretty weak system. GFS is still a bit trigger happy with the intensity. Has it stronger than the other models. But an interesting thing, once we get to 5 days, it does something a little different. Instead of keeping it moving west-northwest, it pushes it straight west at this point to the rest of the run up to 192 hours. Other models are continuing to indicate a bit more of a west-northwest move, and I think I'll show the Euro, for example. It brings it a bit more west-northwest, but they both moved significantly further south and west. It still looks like they won't be of any concern to the Leeward Islands and Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, Cuba, but they're trying to continue to push it to the point where it could be more of a Bermuda threat short term, well, longer term at least, but
It's still 2,100 miles away.
Like we've been talking about, it's far too far out to say. But the other interesting thing, it's the first model run that it's developed this tropical wave that the Euro tries to develop very vigorously. Develops it right here at 1,003 millibars at 192 hours. It's the first time it's initialized showing the storm actually form. And I want to go back just slightly to see what it does with PTC 7. Still keeps it very weak. I don't think this time it even has it becoming a tropical storm. So, interesting model run. I'm interested to see how it plays out rest of this run once it comes out fully, but too far out.
Just run some more numbers on Norman, and based on its current intensity, we're estimating Norman to be at 146 miles per hour. That's what we think of Norman right now. Crazy stuff if you ask me. David?
I'd like to ask Nelson, read local conditions in his area. Is he aware of coastal flood advisory number 3?
Yes, I am aware of that flood advisory. It is up until further notice based on the potential impacts of PTC 7. You got to worry about storm surge, even a small amount from what might be a weak storm. It is important to monitor in the coastal areas. Louisiana is a very low-lying state. It loses a lot of its coastland due to erosion every year, and if this PTC 7 impacts, there will be flooding around the coast, regardless of the amounts of rainfall, just because of the nature of the state.
And Nelson, I've just provided a image in our other room. Any thoughts on the area? All that area in red would be under the flood warning, and the blue would be naturally the water, the ocean.
Yes, the blue part of that image is the ocean. It is the IEM VTEC. The actual red warnings that are there may be the coastal warnings themselves, but all of those parishes and counties in Mississippi outlined are also the ones that the New Orleans Weather Forecast Office has issued a tropical storm watch for.
Yeah.
The information, Nathan, was cited from the Iowa State University.
Yeah, I know that part. I was just wondering what the red outline was.
Yep. I provided a link. So...
I don't think it was the Tropical Storm Watch, though, because it extends a bit further west than that picture was showing. And east, for that matter. But this is the latest forecast track from the National Hurricane Center, which you can see. They're expecting a tropical storm landfall. And that would be on Tuesday night.
Let's see, I don't think I actually took a look at what they expect the intensity. They expect it to be peak at 60 miles an hour right at landfall.
They expect a 60-mile-an-hour landfall there.
And then for it to weaken pretty quickly. It's interesting to see they do slow it down in between days 4 and 5 to almost a crawl at that point. So if it...
Is it going to be like Alberto that just keeps going on and on and on as it goes inland?
Well, I think the difference is, one, it isn't going to become tropical over land.
Well, God. Well, that was something to behold.
And two, it becomes post-tropical much further south. Alberto managed to almost cross into Canada as a tropical system. It was really close. If it survived one more advisory, it was going to do it. And also, this is going to be a fully tropical system. Alberto was the furthest, or was, I think it was the second furthest south subtropical storm on record.
No idea.
I think it was something like that. They mentioned that before. But 19 degrees north for a subtropical system is pretty crazy.
Yeah, it certainly is. It certainly is. Okay, well, if you've got any questions or comments for us whilst we're on the air, do let us know. We'll take your questions. We're also running that poll still in the community tab on our channel. And the latest is 73% think that potential Tropical Cyclone 7 will reach hurricane status, despite the forecast saying otherwise. 27% say no. And we'll take your comments on that shortly as well, what people have said in that particular discussion. Who would like to take the floor next?
Yeah, me. I don't understand why PTC 7 isn't a depression. Is it like the terminology or something like that? I don't understand.
Its low isn't closed off yet, that's why.
Okay, so that... Look at it on like Sally, that it's just way too unorganized.
I wouldn't say too disorganized, it's just it doesn't have a closed circulation really.
Okay.
I must say that system near the Texas-Louisiana border looks very potent indeed. You'd be forgiven for thinking it was a tropical cyclone. And then you've got PTC 7.
A low pressure, it's only be a rain making.
And it's not moving very much either. Slowly to the west-southwest it seems, so southern Louisiana is still going to be experiencing a lot of rain from this for the next maybe day or so.
If we were to ask an average Joe, which one do you think is PTC 7 on this image? You'd say the one on the left. Nope, it's the tiny one on the right off the coast of Cuba over the Bahamas.
Nathan and Strat, following on the low pressure system that'll be the main producer, if it had been further into the Gulf, then it would have been something to watch out for.
I just want to apologize to everyone for the bark. My dog got a little bit scared there for a moment. I'm very sorry.
Not of PTC 7, I hope.
You know, he's got that animal spidey sense. He knows what's coming.
Animals too, I agree.
I think you should be more concerned about the rain currently from this other disturbance. Even if it's not expected to become anything noteworthy in depression or storm, it's still providing hazardous conditions nonetheless.
See if we can get this thing to play. As you can see, light starting to fade over the storm as well, over the system. It's not a storm yet. Potential tropical cyclone. You can quite clearly see that it's not properly got that circulation yet.
Definitely has vorticity and spin to it. It just doesn't really have a closed low yet. It's still trying to get there. It's really developed faster than any of us anticipated, though. Originally, it was at 0% in this time period to really develop, and now it's at 70%. So, definitely a faster developer than what we expected. Although, in terms of intensity...
That's not to say it's actually developed yet, though.
That's true.
That's the chance of development. They're just more confident that it will happen eventually.
Although it does look like it's probably going to be battling higher shear its whole lifetime, so intensification is probably going to be more difficult for it.
Here's a question. Do you think this PTC will become a tropical depression in the next advisory? Now, the next advisory, I'm guessing they'll be doing 3 hourly updates, so the next one will be in just over an hour. I don't think they will then.
I'm curious to see if they'll put up tropical storm watches for southern Florida at that advisory or not.
Yeah, and then at the proper update, the full advisory will be at 11 PM Eastern Time. It might have a chance by the time we get there. Just remains to be seen whether it gets a circulation or not, although they may be less inclined to tag it at night, given that they can't see the visible.
Yeah, right
Unless
now
they
it's
get
more
an
of a wait and
ASCAP
see.
pass or microwave or something.
Do we know if we're gonna get an ASCAP pass?
I don't know, actually. I can't look either, unfortunately.
Nathan, can you zoom in on that satellite imagery, or is there another close-up?
On the
Uh,
potential tropical cyclone, yes?
Yep, because I sighted during our break, I was viewing a video, and apparently what's stopping the system from developing is westerly winds, and also it's attempting a surface low-level circulation. Apparently, all the activities up in the mid-levels. So, if I think if that westerly wind was to disappear, and that low-level circulation was to develop further, then we would have a different.
There's a clarification of the
position.
tropical storm watch zone in Louisiana and in Mississippi. It's also on the coast of Alabama as well. I'm not sure why it's not coloured in there.
This is actually a question. Someone's asking for us to check the MJO.
Well, go on then.
Oh, the old MJO, one of
I
my
can't.
favourites.
If David can send me the link, I can share it in 1080 for us.
All right, give me a minute.
Just to follow up on why Alabama is not shaded in the image that you just had up, because that is the box issued by the New Orleans Weather Forecast Office. It does not cover Mobile. They have their own office.
All right.
That explains it.
Well, thank goodness you were there to explain. Otherwise, it might be construed to be misleading.
Okay, let's see. I need to open up this right here. All right.
That's from the Bureau of Meteorology. They also have that well, the MJO, but you can actually see.
I need to just zoom out. Here it is. I think, where is it? It's hard to tell where it is right now, but it's looks like it's in the Western Pacific, actually.
Well, it doesn't have a huge bias at the minute. I guess that's why we're seeing storms everywhere.
Yeah, it's pretty neutral right now.
That's actually out of date, though.
Is it? This is from
August?
Yeah, it's August.
31st. It is out of date. Still haven't updated.
Huh.
Apology, I have to.
I think it goes to the end of August right here.
Oh, the end of August is the bit at the bottom there, yeah.
Yeah, and that's almost completely in the center of it, so almost no pulse really right now to see.
Mother Nature's being a centrist right now.
Well, it looks like activity is almost all over the northern hemisphere right now, so you can see why.
All right, here comes.
Well, here's a question that someone asked. Why are depressions even a thing? A PTC is better. I think it's the opposite. But there we go.
Okay, so here's a more accurate image that David has shared that I can use.
Yeah, it's the
And
US one.
just before we go there, someone else has said that they're more concerned about the low pressure system off the coast of Africa that will follow after Florence, very similar to the location that Irma formed from this time last year. Well, that's funny because everyone was comparing Florence to Irma as well. It's just, I don't, there's not going to be an Irma.
It's still a week before that thing even comes off the coast, so we shouldn't really worry about it.
I don't think it's going to be a whole week before it comes off the coast, but there is something coming off right now. But it's not going to be an Irma. It's just
I think
not.
the one that the Euro develops is closer to a week from now.
Alright, what are we looking at now?
MGO again, this is a more updated one. Currently about no pulse, maybe just very, very slightly towards the Western Pacific. But the model spread consensus does try to bring it towards the North Atlantic, Western Hemisphere and Africa over the next couple of weeks. Not a strong one though, a pretty weak one.
Yeah, well,
The
that's what we
models-
were
the
thinking
model spread's
about.
all over the place.
That's what it's been saying for quite a while, that we would have a bit more of activity in the Western Hemisphere, and particularly the Atlantic as we get later on in this month.
Yeah, and it looks to be living up to it right now, at least, but the pulse is still almost completely neutral, and if it does move towards the Western Hemisphere, it's going to be only a slight difference, really.
It's still inside that circle.
Yep. It says it moves it pretty quickly towards the Western Hemisphere in the next couple of days, then slows down, has it there for about a week before moving it back into neutral. But you can see tons of other models for it are all over the place. That's just what the Euro says. But that's what you're going to see with it right now. If you want to pull some other imagery.
That's interesting. Makes you wonder. We're just looking at more visible imagery. That is potential Tropical Cyclone 7. Tropical storm watches are in effect from the Alabama-Florida border westward to east of Morgan City, Louisiana, but no watches or warnings in Florida. There are some flood warnings, however, in parts of Florida due to local flooding, locally heavy rains that are occurring there at the minute. Don't forget also, when we're off the air, to check out not only Force 13's social platforms, but all of our other related channels as well, including Force 13 Extra to answer Tropical Cyclone 100's question. Holos Unleashed aired last night on the main channel. They all go to Force 13 Extra for the catch-up. And later tonight, Strat is hosting Force 13 Gaming. That's at 8 PM Eastern Time. We're probably going to finish at the end of this hour in a few minutes. So we've only got 10 to 15 minutes left. I don't know if anyone wants to take the floor now.
I'm not sure if we want to go back to Jebi just for a little bit, because that is the one that's strongest in terms of close to land. So I don't know if you have footage of that to pull up.
Well, we keep looking at the latest frame as they come in, and its eye has been shrinking the whole time. The western eye wall is becoming even more frail, and I think it's going to really struggle to hold on to even 120 miles an hour by the time the next update comes around.
Do we have a SATOPS on it right now, or is it impossible to do with it without a fully closed eye wall?
We should be able to still do that shortly, as soon as we can get an image to appear that works. We don't have a latest image actually on the best possible imagery, so we're a bit stuck there. Himawari has been having one or two issues displaying imagery at decent times.
I think I have an image. I think I have something. Let me see.
Well, we are able to see the floater imagery. And that's something. And that is what you're looking at on the side of your screen here. And there is another look at the storm, but that's slightly out of date, just a little bit.
I don't know if you can pull up the JTWC forecast track, but it's notable that in the latest advisor they moved slightly west again, now forecasting a Shikoku landfall. They moved away from that earlier today.
Yeah.
That seems to have changed back.
We have shown this once or twice. This is the JTWC forecast track. And as we said at the beginning, we expect it to make, well, the JTWC expects it to make a Category 1 landfall, disregarding those models that say a Category 3 landfall is still possible.
Yeah, that's true. If it continues this track of quick deterioration, the JCWC could be right, but it is going to be in pretty favorable conditions for
if that eye
next
goes,
while.
Well, that's it probably, if the eye disappears.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm trying diligently to get some relevant imagery up in the bottom right hand panel, but you can see all the other panels there, how the storm has been looking, and it's really been starting to struggle.
And if you guys want to ask any questions, make sure to just tag us with Force.
Yes, you're all running out of time. Okay, here is an image that actually we can run that on, so I'll have results for you shortly.
Alright, that's perfect to hear. And, But it is slowly deteriorating, it seems. It's trying to open up just a little bit. It's not really doing a great job. I see you're running Satops on it right now. And definitely maybe dry air playing a bit of a role. Western side has some dry air. Band that covering the eyeballs kind of started to detach from the center of the storm, and that could
It's
definitely
looking awful.
It is, really. Earlier today, it was
It's not
looking
to
pretty
say
good, but it
Japan's
seems-
out of the woods by any stretch, but it looks like it's just going to be another one of these annoying weaker typhoons that can still cause problems, and especially flooding concerns, which I believe David might know a thing or two about.
The JMA has no warnings in place. They've lifted that one that I referred to in our first hour.
Gonna say, in terms of weakening,
And even the
it's kinda
deepest
similar-
cloud tops are really having trouble now.
I'm gonna say, in terms of a weaker storm, it's similar to Simmer in a sense, because that storm rapidly intensified unexpectedly, and then even though it was in favorable conditions, it weakened quite significantly and hit Japan as a weaker storm. And looks like Jebi's doing something similar. Let's see. We do have a good amount of questions here right now. Someone's asking,
Be
where's
careful
the
what
RAND
you wish for.
website?
Sorry?
Where in the RAND website are the graphs? I can't find them. It's actually RAM, ARAMMB, not RAND. And someone's asking how long till the GFS picks up on PTC 7. It's going to be harder for the models to pick up on it until it has a closed low. So it's going to be harder to see those for about the next day or so. They do forecast that it'll close off pretty soon, so hopefully that solves itself out so we can really get a better key on the models for what they think it's going to do.
Well, Jebi really is hanging by a thread, latest SADOPS 124, but if that western eye wall continues to break as it is, it's going to lose major typhoon intensity pretty quickly.
Yeah. And someone's also asking a question about rainfall at PTC 7. David, do you have any information about it?
What you could go and look at, Strat, is the accumulated rainfall totals on the GFS model or any of the other models.
I think the GFS is going to have the 18Z now, so I can actually take a look at that quickly and give an answer to that question. Get a total accumulated precip. This is going to be in inches, and the GFS shows it's probably underestimated. It shows about 4 inches at most for the area. So I'd probably expect maybe a bit more than that. I don't know if the National Hurricane Center has a rainfall graphic. They do. It doesn't reach up to Louisiana yet, though, although it does show over 2 inches of rain possible for the Miami area. So that's what you're going to see for it right now.
We're not able to see what you're showing us if you're showing
Oh,
us.
I should screen share. That's
Yeah,
a good
it'd be
idea.
helpful. Yeah.
Alright, well, let's pull up
Useful.
the graphic quickly then. Here's what you're going to see.
Pingo,
This is the rainfall
Pingo
map.
asks who's. Go ahead, Strap.
No, you go first, man.
Pingo asks who's behind Force 13 US. I am. Nelson in New Orleans. E7 right now.
Yeah.
Now, you're showing the WPC graphic.
Yes, I am. 2 inches of rainfall possible in Miami.
These are the same graphics that we used all the way through Hurricane Matthew and Irma.
Yeah, I don't know if you have Zygrib up, but that could show 6-hour precip totals or 3-hour in terms of rain rate. I don't have that right now, but
No, you should go back. You should go and look at the model runs again.
Look at the model runs again. I'll pull that up then quickly. And
With
we'll
the
focus
oh,
on...
there it is. You were on it then. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
focus
only
on the
saying
western
4,
flank.
was it?
It's showing like 2 along Louisiana and maybe a bit more as you get inland to Texas, but it's really showing not much.
And you can see Florence's trail moving in from the right.
Yeah, you can see Florence's trail here, and we got more hours in, so I want to see. We got up to 192 last time, I think. Here it is.
How strong is that?
Let's see. I can go in on it. Maybe. No, this only shows the 12Z, but over 100 knots. I'm assuming at that point.
Just
but
pan back so we can see what happened to 7L. Because clearly nothing much happened if it didn't. Nothing,
it shows it very barely organized. Maybe a
nothing
chop
at
of the-
all. Weaker
but-
than Bonnie.
Yeah, but here would be Florence, and it intensifies it and further west than the previous run, but still
Even west
Not-
of Bermuda.
even west of Bermuda. But this one shows the Canada impact, but this is obviously way too far out to tell for certain.
Yeah.
Although in
that's...
terms of long range,
Yeah.
although in terms of long range forecasts, the models continue to move westward with the system. So that's all the notability with the 18Z GFS run at the moment. Although it does try to pick up on that tropical wave that the Euro is very diligent about. Euro shows it as a pretty strong system. GFS barely has it as anything. So that's what we're really seeing right now in terms of the model run.
Yeah, people are they're gonna look at the, oh boy, they're gonna look at the GFS and they just start noticing that northern turn, like right near North Carolina, and they start moving that northeast. Then people start getting a little bit, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, don't take this as anything serious though. This is 8 to 10
Right.
days out.
Yeah.
Right.
Anything beyond 5 days is not something to look at seriously.
No.
If we're looking at 5 days, this is where it could be. And the GFS is actually pretty trigger happy in terms of intensity.
Yes,
Most of the other
it's,
models have it weaker. It's going to be in very hostile conditions for the next few days, so it could weaken further than it already has right now. The current forecast intensity calls for it to maintain 50 miles an hour for the next 4 days, I think, if I'm not mistaken, before intensifying at the end. It is possible that it weakens even further, maybe to a depression. It's going to be entering dry air, high shear, cooler water than average in the location that it's moving into right now. So it's not beyond possibility for it to drop even further. If I go to ocean analysis and go to sea surface temperature anomalies, not the Western Atlantic, the tropical Atlantic, here it is. Florence is around here. It's in 1 to 2 degrees Celsius below average sea surface temperatures. Not until it moves north, directly north of the Leeward Islands, will it really be in sea surface temperatures that are really favorable. I know you had those RAM graphics, if you want to pull those up. Those kind of told the story pretty well.
I'm gonna look those up right now.
Yeah, Nathan, do you have the long shot graphics that you use for RAM?
Not at the minute, but basically it was saying that the sea surface temperatures would just be hovering over 26 and then be going on the uptick again later on day 4 and 5.
And then it also shows high shear for now, and then it lowers it as day 5. It's kind of reflective on the models because they start to try to intensify it at day 5 or so.
Okay, I think this is what so this is the so if you look at that, that's the deep layer shear here, and if that so the sea surface temperatures are staying around flat, and then it goes further, and then it increases. It's by 5th or 6th of September, so it really comes down to those next few days and whether or not it could intensify.
Yep, and I'm afraid we have to end it here. That is a final look at Hurricane Norman, the strongest storm in the world right now, but that's not affecting any land areas. What is affecting land areas, or will be in the very near term, Typhoon Jebi Category 3, still going to be a major issue for Japan, even though it appears now to be weakening. There it is. And also, everything that's going on elsewhere. Eastern Pacific is busy. Atlantic Ocean is starting to get busy. Florence is out there at 50 miles an hour. PTC 7, potential tropical cyclone, has now spawned tropical storm watches for the Alabama-Florida border all the way to east of Morgan City, Louisiana, and those watches and warnings could extend later on in the next 24 hours. Depends what the system does. Any final words, guys?
Just want to say to everyone in the path of storms, so particularly PTC 7 and Jebi, to stay safe, make sure all your preparations are ready. I know Nelson talked about his earlier, but especially in Japan right now where you have the strongest storm, make sure you're ready to hunker down, or evacuate if need be.
Strat will be back in an hour with his gaming hour. I think it's going to be an hour long. And that will be going on to our new channel afterwards as well. We cover many diverse interests here, and there will probably be a few more popping up in future as well. That's all from us for now. We will keep you abreast of this situation, and there will be more videos appearing on the Force 13 main channel and on social media as time goes by. On Force 13's Facebook and Twitter account, search Force 13 all in text. You can also add my personal account on Discord, and also that our public server is now open to anyone. It's on our community page right now. If you scroll down just a little bit, you'll see the link. We'll make sure to advertise it more in future as well. That's all from us for now. We'll see you again soon, and we hope that the storms stay away. We've had enough of them. Good night.